My name is Alyssa Parker, and I used to believe that being quiet meant being safe. I was never one to seek drama or attention. I liked routine. I liked numbers. I liked silence. Working as a data analyst at Cormack and Finch, a mid-sized tech firm in downtown Chicago, I stayed behind the scenes. I didn't play office politics, I didn't gossip, and I never thought anyone had a reason to mess with me. But I was wrong. It started with a laugh. Not the kind that's obvious or harsh, but the kind you just feel in your bones wasn't meant for joy. It was a Thursday afternoon in early fall, leaves outside still undecided between green and gold. I had walked into the break room, looking to refill my coffee, when I heard it, a muffled snicker, quickly silenced. Haley Monroe and Jenna from HR stood there, whispering. The moment I entered, they quieted like someone had turned down a volume dial. Haley flashed her usual dazzling smile, that kind that always felt like it belonged on a reality TV show. Alyssa. Big numbers week, huh? She chirped, stirring her matcha latte. I nodded politely and turned away, pouring my coffee slower than usual, just to listen. But the silence was airtight. Back at my desk, I tried to dismiss it. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe they were just talking about something unrelated. But the pit in my stomach didn't agree. The rest of the day was normal, almost too normal. A few coworkers avoided eye contact, but nothing overt. I told myself it was stress. End-of-quarter deadlines always made people act weird. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was on the outside of something I didn't know had formed. That night, I went home to my small apartment in Logan Square. My cat, Fig, greeted me at the door like always, weaving through my legs. I made tea, sat by the window, and stared out at the amber streetlights while the city hummed around me. Why did I feel watched? The next day, I overheard two interns talking near the printer. One of them said, I mean, if it's true, that's insane. I never thought she'd be that type of person. The other one gave him a warning look, and both turned to see me just a few feet away. They fell silent. One of them gave a tight-lipped smile. Morning, Alyssa, he said, too fast. I smiled back, but my heart sank. That was the moment I knew something was being said about me. Something bad. Still, I didn't say anything. I didn't ask. I didn't confront anyone. Because what if I was wrong? What if I came off as paranoid? Or worse, insecure? So I buried it. I put in earbuds at work even when I wasn't listening to music. I kept my eyes down and my lips sealed. But inside, a slow-burning question was beginning to form. What the hell is going on? The weird moments kept piling up. My manager, Troy, who had always been neutral toward me, suddenly started CCing Haley on emails that were clearly part of my responsibilities. In meetings, people avoided assigning me key tasks, even ones that used to be mine by default. Haley, on the other hand, seemed to glow brighter by the day. She had always been popular, loud, and charming. But now she was everywhere. Giving presentations I hadn't heard about. Taking the lead on projects I used to own. And somehow, nobody questioned it. At lunch, I sat alone in the back corner of the office cafe, my usual table. I watched as Haley sat with the interns, laughing, throwing glances at me I couldn't quite read. Pity? Triumph? Or was I imagining it? One afternoon, I went to grab a report I had printed earlier, but it was gone. When I asked Haley if she'd seen it, she said, "Oh, that report? I thought it was misprinted, so I trashed it. Hope that's okay." She smiled sweetly. Too sweetly. I didn't say anything. Just nodded. Walked away. But my blood was boiling. The next morning, Jenna from HR passed me in the hallway and said, "If you ever need to talk, I'm always around." Her voice was kind. But I didn't understand why she said it. What was she referring to? I hadn't asked for help. Was there a story being told about me? Later that day, I accidentally knocked over a pile of mail at the receptionist's desk. As I helped her pick it up, my eyes caught a folder labeled Employee Conduct Reports, Parker. My heart dropped. My name. The receptionist noticed my eyes on the file and quickly tucked it under another stack. "Just admin stuff," she mumbled. Admin stuff? I had never had a warning, never even a bad review. When I returned to my desk, I was shaking. My throat was tight, and my vision blurred with panic. I logged in and checked every email I'd sent in the last few weeks, terrified I had said something wrong, written something offensive, or made a mistake that justified disciplinary action. But there was nothing. I was clean. And yet, I was being treated like something was wrong with me. Something unspoken. Something I didn't understand. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind running laps around itself. What was happening?
Who started this? And why?
That's when Haley's name came into my mind. She had always been friendly, almost too friendly. She complimented my outfits in ways that felt mocking. She always asked for little favors, then somehow got the credit for them. And now, she was thriving while I was slowly being erased. No, it couldn't be.
Could it?
I came into the office the next morning with a stomach full of stones. The building's automatic glass doors slid open as usual, but the lobby felt colder than before, colder than it should have for early October. My heels echoed on the marble floor, and I swore I caught the receptionist looking up, then immediately looking back down. That look again. Like she knew something I didn't. I walked to my desk, trying to act normal. My login screen flickered, once before letting me in. Outlook, Slack, Chrome. Same setup. Same tabs. But the messages? Quiet. Too quiet. Even the usual Team Good Morning thread was active, with me completely left out. It wasn't just coincidence anymore. I was being excluded. At lunch, I overheard Troy and Haley talking in the corridor near the glass conference room. I wasn't trying to listen. Believe me, I would have rather not, but when I passed by, I heard my name. She just doesn't seem very stable lately, Haley said in a lowered voice. She used to be sharp, Troy replied. I don't know what happened. My chest seized. I stopped mid-step. I could feel my ears ringing, and my heart pounding in a way that drowned out every other sound. Unstable? I ducked into the copy room, shut the door, and stood there in silence, pressing my back to the wall as if the drywall could hold me together. Was that what they were saying? That I was losing it? I replayed every interaction in my head. Every cautious smile, every avoided eye, every awkward pause. All of it was real. I wasn't imagining it. I felt like a ghost in my own life. That night, I opened a bottle of wine I'd been saving for my birthday and poured it into a coffee mug. I sat on my living room floor, laptop on the rug, and started digging. Emails, shared drives, Slack conversations, anything I could find that had Haley's fingerprints on it. And then I noticed something strange. A shared presentation, one I had created for our Q3 data review, had been renamed. The file author now read, Haley Monroe. I opened it. The core slides were mine. The charts, the analysis, even the footnotes matched. But Haley had changed the design and slapped her name on the title page. My chest tightened again. I took a screenshot and saved it into a folder I quietly named Evidence. The next day, I tried to speak to Jenna from HR. Hey, I said cautiously, can I talk to you for a second? She looked uncomfortable, like I had caught her in the middle of something. Sure. Is this about what we talked about before? I blinked. Before? I haven't. Oh. Her expression shifted. She glanced around and led me into the HR office. What's going on? I asked. Has someone filed a complaint about me? She hesitated. There's been concern about your recent behavior. Some people have mentioned that you've been distant, uncooperative, and a little paranoid. I almost laughed. Paranoid? I wasn't paranoid, I was being targeted. I haven't changed, I said firmly. But I think someone is trying to make it seem like I have. I have reasons to believe Haley Monroe is spreading false information about me. Jenna gave me a diplomatic smile. These are serious accusations, Alyssa. Do you have proof? Not yet. But I would. I started watching everything. Every word. Every glance. I noticed how Haley would tilt her head in fake sympathy whenever I walked past, how she'd lean in to whisper to coworkers and then look my way. She was feeding them something. I just didn't know what. Until one day I finally did. I was in the restroom stall when two girls walked in. Did you hear what Haley said about Alyssa? One whispered. No, what? She said Alyssa had a breakdown at her last job, that she was on meds and hiding it.
What?
Are you serious? That's why she's so weird all the time. I felt the air leave my lungs. They left, giggling, while I stayed frozen. That was it. That was the lie. Haley had spun a story about me having mental health issues. And people believed it. I remembered our team dinner months ago when I mentioned casually that I used to see a therapist during my parents' divorce. I hadn't thought much of it. Haley was there. She had asked questions, acted concerned. I thought she was being supportive. But she had twisted it, weaponized it. I walked back to my desk that day with a fire in my chest. Something had flipped inside me. This wasn't just office drama. This was character assassination. And if Haley wanted war, she'd get it. I spent the next week building my case. Quietly, methodically. I cataloged every altered file. Every message she forgot to include me on. I dug up old project logs showing my authorship. I asked IT for metadata. I even pulled my performance reviews. And then, I made a call to my former supervisor, Lisa, for my last job. She was still with the company and happy to speak on record about my spotless mental health history and work performance. I don't know what kind of rumor would even suggest otherwise, she said. You are one of the most reliable people I ever worked with. I smiled as I added that audio to the growing folder. But the biggest moment came unexpectedly. Haley forgot to log out of her shared Slack workspace on one of the team iPads. I spotted it while doing a team room check for my department. There it was, her profile. Open. Active. I scrolled. A message to another coworker. It's working. Everyone thinks she's off her rocker. She'll quit soon, and then Troy will have no choice but to move me into her spot. Smirking face. I took a screenshot. Then another. Then another. The evidence folder was full now. I looked up, the office empty around me. I wasn't scared anymore. I stared at the screenshots glowing on my laptop screen late that night, heart thudding with equal parts rage and clarity. There it was in black and white.
Proof.
Not just whispers or implied slander. Actual written words from Haley Monroe, admitting what she'd done, bragging about how she'd manipulated people into believing I was unstable so she could take my job. This wasn't just a petty office rivalry. This was deliberate, malicious sabotage. I felt a cold calm settle over me, the kind of stillness that only comes after weeks of confusion and gaslighting finally snap into focus. For the first time in months, I wasn't doubting myself. Still, I needed more than a folder of screenshots and assumptions. I needed a moment that couldn't be denied, a bombshell that shattered any chance of her lying her way out. So I waited. I showed up every day and played along. Smiled politely when she passed. Let her believe her plan was working. Let her keep digging her grave. And then 3 days later, that moment came. It was during our weekly department meeting, held in the main conference room with the entire senior staff present. Troy sat at the head of the table, typing on his laptop. Haley, in her cream blouse and flawless blowout, sat beside him, oozing her usual charm. I came in with my laptop and a thumb drive tucked in my pocket. My presentation on quarterly engagement stats was scheduled second. Haley had volunteered to go first, another one of her power moves to grab the spotlight. She presented confidently, her voice smooth as glass, walking everyone through her project results. I recognized every slide, every graph. She'd only changed the colors. I waited, patient and silent. When it was my turn, I stood up slowly and walked to the front, plugged in my drive, opened a new presentation titled simply, The Truth Behind the Curtain. I didn't start with numbers. I started with the screenshots. The room went completely still. First, a side-by-side comparison of Haley's Q3 presentation and the original file with my author tags dated 2 weeks earlier. Then, the Slack message. The one where she'd written, "It's working. Everyone thinks she's off her rocker. She'll quit soon, and then Troy will have no choice but to move me into her spot." Smirking face. Gasps around the room. Troy sat up straighter. Haley's face drained of color. That's not real," she stammered. "That's fake. It's doctored." I turned to her, calm and steady. You left your Slack open on the team iPad. IT can confirm login history. I clicked again. Audio clip. Lisa from my former job, clearly stating I had never had any breakdown, that my record was clean and my work ethic exemplary.
Click.
Emails between Haley and other team members where she implied I was struggling mentally and likely to burn out soon. Forwarded to HR.
Click.
A message from Jenna in HR stating that false claims of mental instability would trigger an internal ethics review. Silence. I turned to face the room. For weeks, I've been accused of being paranoid, unstable, and distant. The truth is, I've been the target of a calculated campaign to erase my credibility and take my role. These aren't misunderstandings. They're lies. And here's the proof. I looked Haley dead in the eyes. I trusted you. I told you personal things over lunch one day, thinking you were a friend. You used it as ammunition. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her lips just moved. Air, no sound. Troy cleared his throat. Haley, he said slowly, do you have anything to say for yourself?
She stuttered.
This is being twisted. Alyssa's exaggerating. I never meant, it was just a joke. A joke. I snapped. Telling people I had a breakdown and needed medication so you could get my job is a joke?
Her voice faltered.
I didn't think anyone would take it seriously. You hoped they would. I turned to Troy again. Check the file logs. Check the metadata. Ask IT. It's all there. Troy looked at me, then at Jenna, who had entered mid-presentation after being summoned by a pinged message. She glanced at the evidence and nodded slowly. Let's pause the meeting, she said quietly. Haley, I think we need to have a conversation in private. Haley stood, stiff as stone, her face crimson. As she passed me, she hissed under her breath, You think this is over? I didn't flinch. It is for you. The door closed behind her. The room stayed silent for a long moment. I looked around, scanning faces, some shocked, some stunned, others ashamed. Troy cleared his throat. Alyssa,
I don't even know what to say. I'm sorry.
We all owe you an apology. I gave a curt nod. I just want to do my job and not have my mental health weaponized for someone else's ambition. He nodded. Understood. From now on, things will be different. After the meeting, coworkers approached me one by one. Apologies, regret, promises that they hadn't known or didn't want to believe it. Maybe they were lying. Maybe not. I didn't care. I had done what I came to do. I had exposed her. And suddenly, I wasn't invisible anymore. The office felt eerily quiet the next morning. No greetings, no glances, just a tension so thick it clung to every corner like fog. I walked in as usual, but this time, heads didn't turn away. They turned toward me. Some nodded. Others kept their eyes low. One or two whispered behind coffee cups. But this time, I didn't feel paranoid. I knew what they were whispering about. And for once, I had the upper hand. Haley hadn't come in. She hadn't messaged anyone. She hadn't even posted in the team's Slack. But I wasn't relieved. Not yet. Around noon, I was called into HR. Jenna sat at her desk, her expression unreadable, a folder in front of her. She's requested to speak with you, she said. Privately. I raised an eyebrow. What for? She says she wants to clear the air, says you deserve to hear her side. I told her I didn't advise it, but she insisted. I sat back. And you think I should go? Jenna gave me a long look. I think you'll want closure. But I also think you should be prepared. People like her don't go down without trying to rewrite the story. A half hour later, I was standing outside the empty client meeting room where she waited. I could see her silhouette through the frosted glass. Sitting still, back straight, head high. I opened the door. She didn't look up. The silence stretched between us like a fault line. You wanted to talk, I said flatly. She finally looked at me. Her face was calm, almost rehearsed. I suppose congratulations are in order, she said. Don't flatter me. Her eyes narrowed, the mask slipping. You think you've won something? You haven't.
No.
I crossed my arms. Because it looks like I still have my job, my reputation, and my self-respect. And you, well, I hear they're reviewing your employment contract. She stood, stepping closer. You don't get it, do you? This place isn't about who's right. It's about who controls the narrative. You embarrass me in front of everyone. You made me look petty. You are petty. She flinched, then laughed bitterly. You think I made all that up out of jealousy?
God, you're so naive.
It wasn't about the promotion. I blinked. Then what? It was about you. She said it like a curse. You walk in here with your perfect little reports, your spotless record, your therapy makes me stronger attitude, like you're better than the rest of us. Like you haven't had to crawl through the dirt like I have. I stared at her, shocked. So this was personal? Of course it was. Her voice cracked. You don't know what it's like to have to constantly prove you deserve to be in the room. I worked my ass off to get here. No one handed me anything. I felt a flicker of understanding, but it was buried beneath layers of rage. Neither did I. But I didn't climb by cutting other people's throats. She exhaled through her nose, frustration darkening her features. You talk about ethics like it's going to protect you, but the real world doesn't care. Do you really think anyone in this office is loyal? Do you think Troy would have defended you if he hadn't seen your evidence? Wake up, Alyssa. No one cares who's good. They care who wins. I stepped forward, closing the distance. Then let me make this crystal clear. If you ever try to twist my name again, I'll make sure your entire career folds in on itself like wet paper.
She tilted her head.
So you're threatening me now? No, I smiled coldly. I'm warning you. Haley's jaw clenched, but she didn't speak again. I turned to leave. But before I could open the door, she said one last thing. I wasn't lying about everything.
I paused. What? Her voice was soft now.
Quiet. You did say you went to therapy. You did confide in me. That part was real. And deep down, you knew that would be seen as weakness. You just didn't want to admit it. I turned around slowly. It's not weakness. It's what helped me survive people like you. Then I walked out and left her there. By the time I got back to my desk, the entire energy of the office had shifted. HR had circulated an internal memo about interpersonal ethics and respect in collaborative environments. Haley's name wasn't in it, but everyone knew who it was about. By the end of the week, her desk was empty. Her name removed from group chats. Her photo scrubbed from the website. But it wasn't over.
People were still watching me. Some were rooting for me.
Others were waiting for me to fall. And one afternoon, as I walked past the glass wall of the marketing wing, I caught a reflection. My own face. But something about it startled me. Not fear. Not relief.
Power.
Not the kind that comes from revenge, but the kind that comes from enduring. Haley had tried to destroy my name. Instead, she gave me a story, and I wasn't done telling it yet. It had been 2 months since Haley left the company, but her shadow lingered longer than her presence ever did. Every interaction now carried a second meaning. A glance lasted just a little too long. A compliment felt laced with calculation. I used to believe people gave you the benefit of the doubt. Now, I wasn't so sure. Still, I kept my head down and focused on what I could control. My projects thrived. I was given a leadership opportunity on a national campaign. And yet, peace didn't come easily. Because even though I had exposed her, even though the office now treated me with a strange combination of respect and fear, I couldn't shake the feeling that the war hadn't ended. Just paused. One Friday evening, long after everyone had left, I stayed behind to prepare for Monday's board presentation. I was alone in the building, save for the janitor humming down the hall. As I shut my laptop, I noticed a strange envelope wedged beneath my keyboard. No name. No seal. I slowly opened it. Inside, a printed photo. It was of me, taken through the glass wall of a cafe. I was sitting alone, eating lunch. The timestamp was from a week earlier. On the back, one sentence, handwritten in tight cursive. Keep watching your back. I always do. My stomach turned to stone. I scanned the room. Empty. Quiet. But my heartbeat pounded in my ears like a warning siren. I called building security. They reviewed the CCTV footage. No one unauthorized had entered. No one suspicious had been seen. They shrugged and told me it was probably a prank. But I knew better. This wasn't random. It was Haley. Whether she sent it herself or got someone else to do it, I didn't know. And that terrified me more than anything because it meant she still had access to people. Still had influence. Still had eyes. That weekend, I changed all my passwords. Scrubbed my social media. Set up surveillance on my apartment door. Paranoia started living in my bones like a permanent tenant. I tried to tell Jenna from HR about the envelope on Monday morning, but her response was diplomatic and cold. Well, without proof of direct threat or intent, there's not much we can do. I nodded, silently understanding what she really meant. We want this over. Don't stir it back up. I walked out of that meeting with one thing clearer than ever.
I was on my own now.
And maybe I always had been. But I wasn't going to be a victim again. I started collecting. Quietly. I made a timeline of every odd thing that happened since she left. A glitch in my calendar invites. A LinkedIn message from someone with no mutuals asking odd questions about my job. An anonymous email congratulating me on my sweet revenge. They were all small things on their own. But together, they painted a picture. She wasn't trying to destroy me anymore.
She was taunting me.
Letting me know she was still there. And then one night, I got the final piece. I was leaving work, rain soaking through my coat as I walked toward my car. I pressed the key fob and froze. A sticky note was stuck to my windshield. You didn't destroy me, Alyssa. You created me. I stood in the rain, soaked, trembling, staring at those words. And that's when I realized she didn't want her reputation back. She wanted mine. The soft-spoken, ethical, hardworking Alyssa everyone trusted. She wanted to wear my skin like a mask and become the thing she envied. And she wouldn't stop until either she became me or destroyed what was left of me trying. That night, I wrote a letter. To the board, to HR, to legal. I laid everything out. The harassment, the evidence, the pattern, the timeline. I didn't ask for sympathy. I demanded protection. I demanded a firewall between me and her. And I made one more demand. A clause in every leadership contract about digital retaliation and post-termination misconduct. They agreed. 3 weeks later, the company announced new ethics standards. They didn't name her. But I knew. She would see it. She would feel it. And even if she never messaged me again, I had left a mark on her legacy that she could never erase. Still, sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night certain there's someone outside my window. Sometimes I see a woman in a crowd with the same walk, the same haircut, and my breath catches in my throat. Sometimes I wonder if she's moved on, or if she's just waiting for the perfect moment to start over. But most nights I don't feel afraid. I feel ready, because I didn't just survive her. I outsmarted her. And if she ever tries again, she won't be facing the same Alyssa. She'll be facing the woman she taught me to become.